Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 3 of a series which I'm now calling Channel 1 Go for Production. I'm hoping in future episodes we can switch channels, if you will, to like camera or grip and electric and other departments that I haven't even discussed yet. But for now, I'm going to outline the basic structure of production in general. But before we get started, I wanted to address a matter that I feel is very necessary to mention. At the time of this recording, we've been in quarantine for about 30 days for COVID-19, and I can understand this is a very difficult time to survive as a PA, and it's fair to say that PAs make a lower day rate than most crew members, and it makes it challenging at times to either save for the future or for unplanned setbacks like these. But the important thing to remember through all this is it's only temporary. It might feel like the world is ending or scary to watch your bank account run down, but you need to remember that this won't be forever. But the best thing that you can do is prep for when that day comes. Take care of all your personal business you need to now while you still have time to chill. Prep your kit. Make sure everything works. Seriously. Test out your Sharpies, pens, highlighters, and make sure they work. Organize your kit and stock up on expendables if you need them. There's plenty of time to order things online, which will be cheaper for you too. Just do anything that you can do to prepare yourself, so that way when it's go time, you're 100% ready to roll. That's the role of a great production assistant, to be on standby during downtime, even through times like these. One thing you'll hear me talk about a lot is building your kit. Now, I mentioned some things in an earlier episode, which are like the essentials. You want to get these before anything else. You can get them right away. But the thing you'll notice throughout your career is building your kit is an ongoing process. It takes time to find and test the tools that work best for you. One tool that has saved me on so many jobs is a portable charger. If your phone dies, that's really bad. Not only do you need things like calls and texts, but for the GPS, for a flashlight in dark areas, taking photos for continuity or resetting the location when you wrap. It's important to know what time it is if you don't wear a watch, or even like a level to hang picture frames for our department. You can't let your phone die, ever. That's why it's critical to have a portable charger in your kit. There's even versions you can get with internal cables, so that way you don't have to carry another cord with you. Another plus is it'll make you look like a hero to another crew member that might need to charge their phone. Even if that crew member doesn't remember your name at first, in their minds, you just went from the PA to the PA who let me borrow their charger. And that's how you stand out. Any value that you can add will make you a greater asset to the production. I mentioned before the idea of prep, which I wanted to kind of elaborate on. From a production standpoint, there's essentially 3 stages of completion: prep, production, and wrap. But from a producer standpoint, there's actually 4 or even 5 stages of completion: development, prep, production, post/wrap, and distribution. Before anything can go into prep, the idea has to be conceptualized. It takes time to cultivate ideas and actualize them into production. Depending on the type of project, there's also a stage of distribution, but more on that on a later episode. For now, I'm going to cover the stage of prep in the production pipeline, which is also known as pre-production or pre-pro. So the short explanation of prep is essentially a period of time before the shoot starts to do things like book gear and crew, start conversations with different department heads about how to execute certain setups. Casting will begin, location scouts will start, and so much more. This is a period essentially meant to bring the necessary cast, crew, and elements together to capture what the client wants. It's very important to cast early on in the pre-pro stage since it affects a lot of different variables of the shoot. That's when they would hire someone like a casting director. Usually the director will pick this person out. This casting director would work with the advertising agency on the specifics of what they're looking for, And the director will kind of work with both the casting director and the agency to kind of define those characteristics of each role. The casting director would kind of set up one or more rounds of casting calls, which the potential leads would come in to the audition for the part. They'll usually record these sessions so that way people that aren't present, like agency, the director, can review it and select who they like. After they figure out who their selections are, they'll schedule what's referred to as callbacks, which is basically round 2 that agency and the director could be present for. They might have some questions related to the role or project, and then the director will kind of test the waters and see how the talent responds to their direction. Then they select their first and second choices of people they liked for the role. The line producer will also be there, and they'll take care of things like lunch and just making sure everything goes well, goes smoothly, that logistics are taken care of. They'll also take photos of the talent and also grab their sizes for wardrobe, since that's also a very necessary element. Once the talent's been approved, the casting director will book the talent. Besides negotiating their contracts with their agents, they'll also work the deal with the Screen Actors Guild, also more commonly referred to as SAG, if the actors have representation in a union. As I mentioned before, a big reason why they have to cast the talent early is to kind of define the look of wardrobe. A wardrobe stylist will either work with the director or get the specs from like agency so they can start shopping for the necessary clothes. Certain things might need to be purchased from high-end stores. Most of wardrobe is actually bought from department stores like TJ Maxx or Ross. You'd be surprised by how far good combinations of base colors goes with just a very generic and clean look. Of course, it depends on your project, but sometimes that's all you need. It's also important to figure out what time of year the commercial is going to air, because they can cater it to specific seasons and specific wears for that time of year. Sometimes certain pieces need to be custom made, either to match a specific look or to accommodate specific requests or even size considerations. If the project has a much more stylized look, then sometimes they'll rent costumes. Although I'm going to tell you right now, renting costumes is super expensive, even for decently sized productions. I get it. It's very specific to the period, with very particular materials. And can you imagine how much it would cost if you lost a piece like that? One time I had to do a run to a costume rental house in LA, and I had some extra time to kill, so I walked around to check out what they had. There were fitting rooms you could book for fittings if you wanted to, which I thought was pretty cool. And if you haven't already, do yourself a favor and check it out if you ever get the chance. It was amazing. You could get 70s disco or roaring 20s flapper style dresses if you needed them. The only thing was the day rates were super high. Also, they wanted to put a hold on my credit card for 10 times the amount of the rental. So if I was going to pay $100 for a firefighter helmet, they would put $1,000 hold on my credit card just for one piece. That's insane. So if you ever win the lottery, make sure to swing by your local costume house and plan that period piece you've always been dreaming about. And then there's another process that starts in prep, and that's location scouting. If the project is going to be shot on location, then production will hire a location manager. This person will work with the director to define the characteristics of what they're looking for the location. They might look for something like a Florida beach house that faces west, that has big enough rooms to shoot in, and whether the neighborhood can accommodate vehicles and equipment needed to be brought in to shoot the commercial. A good location manager will make sure that the houses are available for the shoot days before they submit them. They'll take photographs of the location for reference, and check on any special requirements by the neighborhood. Some of those requirements could be notifying neighbors of filming or permits for the street parking, time restrictions for parking, whether the crew will need to be shuttled to location or self-park, if there needs to be any police officers or firefighters on location, any special requirements from the homeowners, and many other details to consider. It's also important to know what hours are included in your deal with the homeowner and what additional costs there would be for overtime. You want to make all your deals up front. That way there's no unpleasant confrontations on the day of your shoot. It's also important to let the homeowners know that multiple visits are necessary with multiple people, so that way they have a heads up. Now, one thing you heard me mention before is the concept of scouts. There are two different types that you heard me mention before: director scouts and tech scouts. Now, director scouts are first, since that's kind of earlier on in the process where more decisions can be made about what is needed and required for the location. So this includes the aesthetic look of the location. Maybe agency doesn't want a specific certain thing in the shot, or maybe they are looking for a desired effect that only certain locations can replicate. So director scouts leave a little bit more question in the air, and everything hasn't quite been defined yet. Tech scouts, on the other hand, are when all the necessary departments are present, like the gaffer, key grip, production manager, production designer, director of photography, and any others that need to be present. It's basically this is what's going to happen type of meeting, and so your department can plan for adequately. Now, the other option would be shooting in a studio, but I'm going to cover more on that in a later episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on the next podcast.